What do you say there, children of the night? Kenny from Kenny Steps into Movies is once again back going unscripted, and once again, I've got another guest on the channel with me. We're about a week away from Halloween night, and so I wanted to talk about something I really love, the Universal Monsters. And to join me, I thought of a friend who loves these movies as much as I do. It is my friend Chad Diephuis from the Eternal Midnight podcast we used to host here on YouTube. Chad, how are you doing?
Good man. How are you tonight?
Doing really well. I'm glad we get to come back and do this because for any fans, because I know we have a few people I reached out to when I first started the channel who knew of Eternal Midnight back in the day, and some might know that we were doing this series going down the box set of Universal monster movies that we each had. It was like 31 movies or so, I think. Does that sound about
hmm
right?
Yeah, and we got up to, I believe, She-Wolf of London, and just with where life was at the time, for me at least, I just got busy. I think I overdid things a little bit on my schedule.
Hmm.
So it was like a combination of just burnout and busyness, but I know a few times you said we needed to finish it, and I kind of agree. We should finish it at some point. We're so close.
Yeah, that could be a good project to come back to. But in the meantime, with Halloween fast approaching, I figured let's do another little podcast style episode, breaking down, the eight most famous of the Universal monsters and figure out which one is the best. So on the screen here, people can see we've got the Phantom of the Opera, Dracula, Frankenstein's monster, which, yes, I do have properly labeled Frankenstein's monster. Is Frankenstein is the scientist, as we all know. The Mummy, the Invisible Man, Bride of Frankenstein, the Wolfman, and Creature from the Black Lagoon, the Gill Man. So before we go down here, we had that series where we were talking about these movies. Chad, I'll pose it to you first. Why do we love these old movies so much?
They just had so much heart poured into them.
Yep.
And for the time that they were created, I mean, like this was like legitimately scary to some people.
Hmm.
And in today's world, like I always love when I hear people argue about like, PG-13 horror movies not actually being horror because they're not scary. And I'm like, okay, so is the original Dracula like terrifying? I'm like, does that scare you and does that keep you up at night? I'm like, because that's not a rated R movie by
Hmm.
today's standards. I'm like, and it's really not scary. I'm like, so is that not a horror movie then? But I also love them because just, yeah, they were created essentially during like the evolution of film going from the silent era to the sound era, and you can even see the difference going from something like, we'll just say, Dracula all the way up to Bride of Frankenstein. You can just see that as these movies were getting created, they were getting better and better and better at their craft.
Yeah, because you remember Dracula and Frankenstein's monster, there's no musical score because it was so early in sound film that they didn't think to add a musical score. By the time we get to, I think The Mummy is when they included it, but Bride of Frankenstein has that iconic sound bite, that musical score. I'll play it right here. Okay, so that's that. Um, So, anyways, yeah, I figured we'll go down here. I placed them basically in chronological order. So we got the Phantom of the Opera, the Lon Chaney Senior version, 1925. However, my co-host here, Chad, has yet to see this one. He has seen the Claude Rains version, so we'll sort of go between the two just to go into the character, because again, it's not necessarily the movie we're talking about, it's the character. So, yeah, so going from Phantom of the Opera all the way down to Gilman, I guess we can go ahead and get started here. We got them in chronological order, so let's get rolling. The Phantom of the Opera versus Dracula. Um, and if I'm not sure if I've already pointed this out, we're not saying like who's going to win in a fight. We're saying who's the most compelling character, who has the better stories, the better movies overall. That's what we're getting at here. So between the Phantom of the Opera and Dracula, Chad, how are you feeling?
Whew. I guess I would. I mean, I got to go with Dracula just because even though nobody, in my opinion, when it comes to that portrayal of Dracula back in the old days, was able to top Bela Lugosi. I do feel that the character got a little more, the character of Dracula itself got a little bit more, we'll say, justice
Hmm.
than Phantom of the Opera, which, if you think about it, they could have done with the Phantom of the Opera what they did with all the other monsters, just retconned the ending and been like, no,
Hmm.
he's back. He's back. No big deal. Who cares? We
Yeah.
just want to make another sequel. But with Phantom, they didn't. And with Dracula, I think even in some of our episodes, we discussed how I believe John Waters in House of
Oh,
Frankenstein.
you mean John Carradine?
John Carradine, my bad.
They both have the mustache, so I can see why you thought about that. And John Waters is a pretty scary guy.
I don't, it's like my brain was literally jumping between the two, and I was like, which one do I go with? Um, but and I do remember, I forget which one it was. I believe which one was it that we watched where Lon Chaney Jr. was Dracula?
oh, that was Son of Frank or Son of Dracula rather.
So, and I just remember when we talked about it, he did not sell us at all, did he?
No, he's like an all-American John Wayne kind of guy, and for Dracula, you need to have that sort of exotic flair to it that, John Carradine was okay at, but I mean, obviously you can't top Bela Lugosi.
Hmm.
Yeah. Now, I agree with you here. So let me, yeah, I'll go ahead and say, yeah, we'll move Dracula over, but to give the Phantom his due, I will say I think the 25 Lon Chaney version is more interesting because obviously in the Claude Rains version, you remember he's scarred by acid, and that's why he hides his face. In the original and in the novel, he's deformed from birth. So a lot of the character has to do with his isolation from society and him being shunned, how his own mother, didn't love him because of his deformity and everything. And so he finds beauty in music and in the arts, and he becomes incredibly, fixated on this young girl, and like he demands love of her and all that stuff. But so he's an interesting character in that regard. Anything you want to say about the Claude Rains Phantom before we move forward?
It's been a while since I watched it, so I mean, I guarantee a refresher is coming up at some point. But I do remember, I remember when we were first talking about it, it was probably one of the ones that I had almost, I'll say, no interest in watching. Not out of I had heard anything bad about it, but just because I was like, I don't really care. But I remember watching it and really enjoying it, and I believe that was one you and I really both gushed over.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
Um,
I like that one a lot. I just love the look of the Phantom with the wide brimmed hat and the cape over his face, just running down the halls. Um, but yeah, I highly recommend. I mean, I don't believe I have one friend who's sort of opposed to silent movies, but I don't believe you are. But I highly
no.
recommend. I highly recommend the Lon Chaney Phantom.
I'm positive I have it. I think I've got one of those like DVD packs that has like a
Yep.
billion movies in it, and
I,
I'm pretty sure it's in that one.
yeah, I think you and I have the same one. Um, but yeah, look, Bela Lugosi's Dracula is so iconic. You know, I mean, I used his line as the opener for this "Children of the Night," and I never drink wine. He's so awesome. He's so freaking captivating. You just can't take your eyes off of him. So I mean, I think Dracula deserves that next spot. So what say you? We good? Any more we want
I
to say?
I agree. Dracula is just it's a character that has evolved so much over the
Yeah.
years. Sometimes good, sometimes not. I know I'm probably in the minority. I actually like oh shoot. Of course, I say I like it and the movie completely fell out of my head. The one that was supposed to kick off like the new Universal horror
Oh,
universe,
Dracula
Dracula
Untold.
Untold. Yes. I know I'm in the minority. I love that movie. I thought that was actually a pretty cool like prequel to him becoming Dracula, but I know a lot of people hate that film.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the movie, but the actor who played Dracula, whose name escapes me, he was not the problem. He was really good.
Hmm.
Hold on, I'm looking that up right now. Dracula Untold. Luke Evans. Yeah, he
Yep.
was he was excellent in the role.
Yeah, I personally, even though we're going off track, I personally do feel he kind of got shafted because I personally think after that movie, instead of scrapping it and being like, okay, well, we'll just restart with the Mummy, and then crashing and burning with that one, it was
Yeah,
like, yeah, should have just stuck with Dracula Untold,
stuck to your guns.
yup, and just moved forward with it and been like, okay, a lot of people clearly didn't like this. Let's just change direction a little bit because if you make a better movie next, people in retrospect will look back at
Mhm.
that movie with a little bit better fresher pair of eyes because they're like, yeah, it kind of started a little jumpy, janky, but you know what? It got better, so it's no big deal.
Yeah, agreed. And I mean, I know we're gonna want to move forward here, but I definitely also just think Dracula just as a character has so permeated the cultural zeitgeist more than the Phantom of the Opera has.
Hmm.
You know,
I agree.
love him, but Dracula, I think, just has the better permanence, if that's the right word.
No, it's yeah, it's just a vampire is much more popular than the Phantom of the Opera, and the original Dracula is the one that just there's so much about him that so many people go back to.
Yeah, absolutely. And going from one classic literary monster to another, we've got Frankenstein's monster and the Mummy. Karloff versus Karloff in this situation. Unless we also want to take into account the Lon Chaney Jr. and the Tom Tyler, I believe, is the other actor. But yeah, between these two, I sort of let you take the lead on that one. But for me personally, between these two, once again, I've got to go with the Frankenstein monster. Personally, I think he's a more compelling character, and I can get into why. But Chad, what do you think?
So we have our first disagreement because
Okay.
I was thinking about it and just looking at the two of them, obviously the Frankenstein monster is one of the most iconic, the Universal Frankenstein monster is one of the single most iconic designs of all time. It's
Hmm.
I mean, the movie over 100 years old at this point?
No, there was 31, but we're coming up on it.
Yep. And I mean, just look at it. It's everybody knows what the Frankenstein monster looks like. They
When
don't all know that it's not called Not all of them know it's called Frankenstein's monster, but everyone can recognize the Frankenstein monster design from that film.
hmm
And go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, when someone says the word Frankenstein, the flat-topped monster with the blazer jacket on is what immediately comes to mind.
Hmm. And if I was going with like a popularity contest, it would win, obviously. But there was just something about Karloff in that first Mummy movie
Hmm.
that is just so much more compelling. I mean, the first scene where he's coming back to life is just like perfectly creepy. Just the
Yeah.
backstory of when he was buried, why he was buried, and just what versus being what the mummy became in the following movies, where, he stumbled around in the bandages, doing the wills of the priests who were basically just using him as, the big dumb muscle.
Hmm.
This, and so many people who probably haven't watched the first one probably have no idea that that was not what the mummy was.
Yeah. I
I mean,
remember I remember being a kid and my dad showed me the first because my dad introduced me to all these movies. And my dad showed me the first Mummy movie. And as a kid, I'm disappointed because like, oh, I want to see a guy wrapped up going around strangling people. But as an adult, Ardith Bey Imhotep, his plan is so much more interesting than him just being basically a proto slasher.
mhm. And I mean, it's obviously they took a lot of that inspiration when they did the Brendan Fraser
Hmm.
reboot. And obviously, I saw that first.
Yeah.
At least I did. But going back and rewatching the original, I'm like, it's so cool seeing where they got the ideas from. The way the mummy, while he is a mummy, He's not covered in bandages. He actually speaks. He's intelligent. He's going around living among regular people,
Hmm.
trying to fulfill his goals. And it's hard between the two of them because, like I said, it's on one hand, we're looking at the mummy, who is this smart, cunning individual. I don't even want to say villain, just an individual trying to get back what he wants at the cost of others around him, versus the Frankenstein monster, which is just this unbelievably tragic
Hmm.
creation. It didn't ask to live. It didn't
Exactly.
ask to be created. And you just look at it with utter just pity. It's a giant hulking man with the mind of a deranged child, essentially, in the
Yeah,
first one.
because
And
I mean, so tragic is that scene where he stumbles upon the little girl by the pond, and he's being playful because he's found the very first person who doesn't run in fear of him, and that ends so absolutely tragically. I would think most people who watch my channel would probably know, but I won't spoil it. But that moment, I'll also say this. Here's how I'm gonna push the Frankenstein monster in this way. And if it comes down to it, we'll come to an agreement. But I think you also got to take Bride of Frankenstein into account and how he's portrayed
mhm.
there and how he learns speech and the scene with the blind man. Um, yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, to me, Bride of Frankenstein is probably my favorite of pretty much all of those old movies, just because of like a scene like that. That scene is just perfection. He's terrified. He tries to show like his scary side, but obviously the blind man can't see him. And through the kindness of this individual who's not judging him,
Hmm.
who's just compassionate towards him, trying to take care of him, all ruined by a couple of men who had no business being there anyways.
Yeah.
It was so amazing to watch the evolution of the Franken, because if you think about it, just the first movie alone, you just feel bad for this thing. But
Hmm.
then as he evolves through the second movie, you just see character progression on it's hard to describe the Frankenstein monster as a character outside of because obviously it doesn't have a lot of evolution compared to other characters,
Hmm.
but the evolution it does go through at even up to the very end, where he literally tells Frankenstein and his bride leave,
Yep.
and he just burns the whole place down because he's like, the bride hates me, and I have no business even existing anymore.
Yeah, and it's that goes back to something he says earlier when he's talking to Dr. Pretorius. Great villain. I love Colin Clive as Henry Frankenstein, but Dr. Pretorius is a great villain.
Hmm.
But when he tells Pretorius, "I love dead, hate living," that is such a tragic line for this
Hmm.
character because, like you said, he didn't ask to be created. He's just like, I know what death is, and it gives me so much more peace than what I am now.
Yep. So if we're including Bride of Frankenstein in this, then yeah, Frankenstein's monster takes this win.
Okay, yeah. I mean, if you're comfortable with that, I'm not trying to push you.
No, I mean,
Okay.
hey, we still got it's one of those ones where you look at both of them, they're both equally strong. It
Yeah.
just comes down to which one is the stronger of the two. And including Bride, yes, the Frankenstein monster takes that one.
Awesome. Again, I we absolutely love the Boris Karloff mummy, and a lot of those, Mummy's Hand, Mummy's Tomb, Mummy's Ghost, Mummy's Curse. They're fun, but they just don't bring out the character as much as that first one.
I mean, they're still interesting to watch. To the best of my memory, I enjoyed all of them.
Hmm.
Um, they just, yeah, he just wasn't the same. It wasn't the same character. It was a different mummy altogether. Still interesting, just in a different way.
Hmm. All right, and I think we were mentioning this before we started recording, but coming down to Invisible Man and Bride of Frankenstein, the bride, iconic design, amazing look. She's in the movie for all of 5 minutes at the end.
And she just screams.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but yeah, so. I think we were agreeing Invisible Man is probably the one we would go for.
Yeah, click him now and we could still talk about it a little bit at least.
Yeah. I guess to, you know, I won't say wasted opportunity because I think there's something tragic and melancholic in that she was created and all she proves is that nothing can love this monster. And again, great design. The haircut is iconic. She's the title monster. You would think she was in it more, but I do like what screen time she has, and she's played by the same actress who plays Mary Shelley at the beginning, Elsa Lanchester.
Yep.
Yeah,
I just it's just weird that they never brought her back ever.
yeah,
Like they bought the Frankenstein monster back, but never her. I mean, she probably equally could have gotten some good character development going
hmm
along, but I guess I mean that was also the time where I guess women were just damsels in distress anyways. So,
right.
and it was rare to see one that kind of wasn't, especially in these old movies.
hmm
Um, I mean, there was a handful. Like I remember, I think you and I kind of went back and forth at one point about Dracula's daughter
Oh
about,
yeah,
and I mean, I think we agreed that the problem with that one was it the actress there was I remember we like I think we said was we loved the concept, but they just fumbled the ball a little too bit with the storytelling.
yeah. No, I liked her as the actress. As an actress, I can't remember that actress's name. We'll put it on the screen here, but I don't know. I mean, I think if we go back, I think we actually did like that one. It just doesn't have the same permanence. She also doesn't have the same amazing design that the bride has.
Exactly.
But no, that's she was an interesting character. But anyways, Invisible
Invisible Man.
Man, yeah, absolutely. Claude Rains, had to work mostly with his voice and what a voice it is.
Oh my gosh. It's so many iconic lines from the movie, and I'm not even gonna attempt to say any of them because I will just butcher it because I cannot compare to the way that man spoke and the enthusiasm and the cunningness he was able to include in some of his lines. I mean, like one of my favorite scenes again from all of these films is probably the one like near the very end where he like kills his best friend
Oh,
because he ratted him out.
yeah, we'll play it right here.
Then you'll do a somersault and probably break your arms. Then a grand finish up with a broken neck. Well, goodbye, Kemp. I always said you were a dirty little coward. You're a dirty, sneaking little rat as well. Goodbye.
It's so good.
It's hilarious and it's like evil at the same time, but it's like he's so jolly in his
Yes.
joy of killing his friend.
Yeah, exactly. And just so much good stuff. So mostly acting with his voice and also with his body language, like clenching his fist and all this. And for an Invisible Man, like a great design for like how for what they could do then. And we'll get into the special effects of this movie too. But for what they could do for like a design of like, okay, how would an Invisible Man make himself visible? The wraps around his face and the sunglasses and the robe, great look.
Agreed. And it's like I could see that one also being something when this movie first came out, imagine being in the theater and seeing him unwrap those bandages and then seeing on the screen just nothing there.
Yeah.
Imagine how audiences felt back then when that movie first came out.
hmm And that sort of goes back to what we were talking about is like, these might not be scary now, but you think back, I mean, obviously Phantom of the Opera, the iconic unmasking scene, so, reportedly people fainted and screamed in the theater. Frankenstein at the beginning of the movie has Edward Van Sloan come out and like warn the audience of how scary it is. But yeah, like this, like in that time to like see a man unwrap his head and like there's just nothing there and then just a floating t-shirt or not a t-shirt but a button-up shirt is must have been like amazing.
Hmm.
And the character himself just a man going mad with power basically because like no one else has this ability that he has.
Yep. And just figuring out what direction he chose to go in while wielding it. And clearly he was starting to go mad from it. And even going forward into the sequels, some of them got really interesting with what they did with it. But sticking with just the first one, it it kind of shocks me that that they were able to get like, the townspeople to figure out how exactly to find him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and all the different like clever things they do there. Like you see, they like rigged up the chair so that, the cushion drops down with nothing in it, so it looks like an invisible man is sitting in it.
Jeez.
Um, yeah, just so
Such
many.
creativity.
Yeah. And I believe they mentioned something about how what was it? The chemicals that he injects in himself, it grants him invisibility, but it also messes with his mind. So that's part of, him losing his mind, but also just the power of it corrupts him.
Hmm.
Yeah.
No, he's definitely a great character. I'm actually, again, to the best of my memory, we seem to like most of those movies,
Yeah.
even though they it seemed like they jumped from like genre to genre for some of them.
We had a spy espionage movie at one point with the Invisible Agent.
We we go from a movie about a man going mad to a war movie. It's
Yeah.
and it's
Well,
cool that they've just been able to keep that character going again in different takes, different directions. Like I know Hollow Man is kind of a hit or miss with people depending on who like. I personally think it's a great film.
mhm.
And then even with the one that James Wan did a couple years ago, I
Oh,
mean that was amazing.
actually, not James Wan, Lee Winnell,
Lee Winnell, my
yeah, his
bad.
partner.
I had Saw in my brain.
Yeah, exactly. No, but yeah, that one was really good. And man, actually, before we move on, did you see Lee Winnell's Wolfman?
Did anybody?
That I did, and it was a bust.
What happened?
So basically, they take the Wolfman concept, and instead of it being like a curse, it's like a disease that you get out in the woods.
Oh.
And first of all, I don't like even vampires when it's like a disease. I like mystical vampires, and it's even worse for a werewolf because it's like, yeah, basically it's a disease this guy gets in the woods with his like wife and daughter out in the woods, and like he slowly gets hairy, his jaw like protrudes, and he just like gets these like animalistic instincts, and it didn't work. And also, this is one Matt and I saw together. Matt made a good point. He said, if you would have told me this was a movie that they made during COVID, I would believe you, because a lot of the movie is just these three people in the house, and they like run to the greenhouse, run back to the house, and it's a very small scale.
Oh, that's unfortunate
But his
because go ahead.
no, you go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say that's unfortunate because it's just I don't know why it's so hard to get some of these characters right in today's society. They're
Yeah,
not that hard, and I completely understand people wanting to like put their own spin on things. But sometimes it's like if there's certain rules that are there, you either need to abide by them or you need to make sure that
right.
what
A
you're doing actually makes sense.
Yeah, a werewolf should be a mystical thing. It should not be a disease.
Yeah, just leave it as mystical. I don't why do they always have to like in so many of these movies like remove the fantasy or mysticism from
They want to
something
ground it, it seems. And that's why, to go back to the Invisible Man, that's why I think they made it a suit rather than a um
a serum.
a serum, exactly. But that worked more for Invisible Man, I would say.
Right, because even that a serum is still based around science and you can
Yep,
say the same thing with a suit.
yeah, exactly. But we just complained about Lee Winnell's Wolfman. So on that topic, let's go back to the good Wolfman and a great other, the two men, the Wolfman and the Gill Man. I have a strong inkling of which one I think is a more interesting, compelling character. But Chad, please.
I mean, I think we're on the same wavelength that the Wolfman takes the win here.
Yeah.
Because again, this was taking a man, Lon Chaney Jr., who is, like you said, that John Wayne everyday man, who you just like, at least to me, I look at him in the movie and I'm immediately drawn to this guy. I'm like,
Yep.
this is someone I want to root for. And instead of him being, like, the hero versus the monster that comes out of nowhere, they completely flip the script and he's the monster. And
Exactly.
there's nothing. And he's basically spending the movie going, what can I do to fix this? And thankfully, kind of like Frankenstein's monster, they were able to take his story and just keep on continuing it, which is one of my favorite parts of the oldest old movies is they actually kind of got his continuity correct, kind of.
Yeah. Yeah, weirdly in all those movies they have some explanation of where he and the like okay, so it's Frankenstein meets the Wolfman. Larry Talbot is buried and I guess somehow the full moon is able to reanimate him. I guess that's the rule we're going by. And then after that, he and the monster are found in ice in House of Frankenstein. Um, and I think after that they kind of lose the script when we get to House of Dracula and everything. But
That movie was that movie was a mess. The
yeah,
movie was an absolute mess, unfortunately.
had some fun parts to it, but yeah, not it wasn't up to the caliber of the others. But yeah, I'm with you. Actually, back in last October at this point, I did my video, my top 10 horror heroes, and I actually had Larry Talbot on the list there. And I just think it's such an interesting character dynamic to have the hero and the monster be the same person, be the same character, you know? And I was actually thinking about this when you mentioned it, going through that experience of like, oh, how can I fix this? Do you think this could sort of be seen as a proto body horror like David Cronenberg's The Fly?
I was literally just thinking of that movie where I was
Oh,
gonna say this was a concept that was so far ahead of its time, it feels like, because that's what it seems like The Fly did. The
yeah.
Fly basically took an older concept and was like, let's twist this and make, the hero also the villain at the same time, and we can watch his descent.
Hmm.
And it's I'm so glad you brought it up. Hey,
Yeah,
great minds think alike.
I was about to say exactly. Yeah, no, it's yeah, and Larry Talbot and Lon Chaney is so charming in the role. What's funny is I've actually heard he and Evelyn Ankers apparently didn't like each other on set, really, but you wouldn't guess it by the dynamic of the two characters in the movie.
Not at all. Hey, that's good acting right there. Being able to be like, however, whatever reason, they were able to put it aside. I mean, I thought they had good chemistry, the two of them together.
Yeah. So we've been gushing about the Wolfman. Obviously, he takes it, but let's give a little bit of love to the creature here. A great design. And the fact that he came out so much later, 1954 was, I believe 54, was when his first movie came out. That's 13 years after the Wolfman, 23 years after Dracula and Frankenstein, and yet he's always in the package sets with all of them, and he's always pictured with them. That's a testament to him as an iconic figure.
Exactly. And I mean, the hard part with him is because he's an actual creature that doesn't talk.
Yeah.
I more or less just kind of equate him to he just kind of reminds me of King Kong in a sense
Yeah.
where he just wants the girl because that's what he wants.
Yeah. Absolutely. But a great design, really fun movies, great underwater camera work. Love the Gillman, but Wolfman has to take it.
Yeah, I mean, Gilman, he was what he was. I mean, he was a universal monster. Personally, I think the best design they've ever done for the Gilman was Monster Squad.
Absolutely.
I would love to see that design come back. And just randomly, what was that movie? The Sound of Water?
Oh, The Shape of Water.
The Shape of Water. I mean, to me, I was kind of like, this feels like a remake of almost like the second movie in a
Yeah,
way,
I think
which was
Guillermo.
odd.
Yeah, I think Guillermo del Toro said like his concept was, oh, what if they actually fell in love? And it's so funny. Like when my friend showed me this, he loaned it to me rather, his physical copy, and I watched it, and I was just like, huh, that's basically just Fish Jesus.
Yeah.
He's got these healing powers. But as far as the character in the old school movies, he's great, iconic look. I love it, but I mean, love the Wolfman more.
Yeah, I mean, I feel bad what happened to Gilman at the end of the third Creature from the
Yeah.
Black Lagoon, but I mean, it took too long to get there.
Yeah, no, there was yeah, that's a good point. You know what? Yeah, let's let's talk about that real quick. Is he gets a little bit of humanity. They find he's got like human skin underneath and th but they basically just remove him of all that makes him elegant and interesting in a way, you know?
They removed what he was, and they basically just made him a freak, essentially. He wasn't a human, and he wasn't himself anymore, and he just chose to end it instead of existing. And it's like man's meddling with stuff they had no business getting into
Yeah, absolutely.
led just led to absolute tragedy. Whereas, Lon Chaney Jr., it's like you feel bad for him as the Wolfman from, half an hour into the film,
Yep.
and you're pitying him the entire time and up all the way up until the very end, which even that ending was horrible. Imagine being his father.
Oh, yeah, it's such a great like tragic moment. We watched that one earlier this October. Um and yeah, it's the older I get, the more compelling that ending is for me.
Hmm.
And this brings us to I think two of the biggest. I think these are I mean Wolfman too, but I think when you think Universal monsters, the two that come to mind are Dracula and the Frankenstein monster. And nature by the nature of, tournament style videos, we might have to rehash some of the things we've already said about these characters, but yeah, Chad, between Dracula and the Frankenstein monster, what who do you find more compelling?
Got to go with the Frankenstein monster.
Yeah.
He just, I know we said we kind of wanted to stick to even like just their first movie or movies, especially since even the first two Frankenstein movies, they were like the first two, and then they didn't make Ghost for or Son of Frankenstein for quite a while. So it almost feels like uh the Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein almost were like part one and part two
Yeah, it's a
of
package deal. And like I said, this is the character, not the movie.
yeah.
So, and I'm honestly with you. And Dracula is at a disadvantage. I mean, we get John Carradine as Dracula, and he's fine. Bela Lugosi doesn't come back until Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein. So he's kind of at a disadvantage. But yeah, I'm with you. And we'll get into reasons why, but I definitely agree. I think Frankenstein monster is the more compelling of the two.
Yeah, especially with just the journey the character takes. I mean, even though with Bride of Frankenstein, it felt like they definitely took like 5 steps forward with the character, and then
Hmm.
every movie after that, they definitely just kept downgrading him
Yeah.
back to the point where he just was a mindless, shambling creature, sadly.
Yeah, especially, I mean, I do think in Son of Frankenstein, Karloff, he's a mute again, but he's still like, he still has some sort of indescribable charm to him, that Lon Chaney Jr. in Ghost of Frankenstein and Bela Lugosi didn't have in Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, for multifaceted reasons. The story is he was supposed to have dialogue in Igor's voice, but he couldn't, like, I guess test audiences thought it sounded weird, so they cut the dialogue. But with honestly, yeah, without Karloff, honestly, I do think is the secret sauce to making this character so compelling.
Yeah, he just the way he looks was able to sell the character with his hand gesture, with his body movement. That's
That
really what sold it.
that scene in the first movie where they open up the skylight in the tower, and he looks up and sticks his hand out up in the air, and then they close it on him, and he just looks so defeated.
Hmm. Agreed. And with Dracula, we just didn't get that. We got a great first movie,
Hmm.
but it was like that was really it. Everything after that, Dracula just was never that compelling of a character. I mean, even in House of Frankenstein, it was like he had an interesting story, but I mean, they killed him off at what, 25 minutes into the movie or something, and that was
Yeah,
it. It's like, well, they're okay. That's
exactly.
the end of Dracula. All right.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And in the same way, I think Karloff is the secret to making the monster is so compelling. I think Bela Lugosi was the secret to making Dracula so compelling, and he only had really that first movie, and he's good in Abbott and Costello, but he just didn't get as much opportunity. Even in House of Frankenstein, yeah, Glenn Strange is the monster, but there's
Hmm.
something poetic about Karloff being the mad scientist in that one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Make me want to go back and rewatch that one now.
You know what's funny?
Yeah.
I just rewatched that one today with my dad.
Ooh,
So
nice. Excellent.
that one is fresh in my memory. And back when we did the series, obviously we rode James Rolfe's coattails quite a lot talking about these movies. But you'll remember he says like there's something poetic about the monster and Karloff dying in the quicksand together. Like that just makes sense.
Hmm.
Yeah, just the Dracula, I'll say this, he's an evil monster, right? Whereas the monster is a tragic figure, and there's something more poetic about that, I think.
Yep, especially when he's just being used essentially as a weapon or an experiment.
Hmm.
But I mean, he's never really given his due credit aside from uh past to me the second movie was almost where like he topped, and
Yeah,
I don't want to
agreed.
say he crashed after that because he didn't, because they had some good stories surrounding his character, but it was like he never topped what happened to with his character in Bride.
He never met that peak again.
Yep,
Yeah, but hey, what a peak it was. So
absolutely.
happy to have him there. All right, Invisible Man versus the Wolf Man. I'll go ahead and tell you where I'm leaning. I'm leaning towards the Wolf Man.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
Invisible Man is good, but sticking with the tragic character trope, I mean, the Wolfman essentially embodies it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And and that brings us to the last two. But yeah, look, Invisible Man, and also I'll say this, Jack Griffin, I think I know it's Griffin and I believe it's Jack. Really, he's again, that character only has the one movie because each Invisible Man movie after that is a different character.
Yup. I mean, if Invisible Man had kind of started out with us seeing who he was before taking the serum, I get that it would have been a much longer film and that wasn't
Yeah.
wanted back then. But I mean, if we'd seen that he was, let's just say, like an incredible husband and father and a caring
Hmm.
man who took care of people in his community, and that's just kind of what kind of doctor he was, and we see that for maybe even 15, 20 minutes, and then seeing what he transforms, what kind of man he becomes after taking the serum, I genuinely think it would have had more of an impact on feeling bad for him as a tragic character,
Hmm.
seeing how it was warping him. But that's all we ever knew him as. And we can still feel bad for him, but it's not the same thing because we never saw it.
Whereas we get the development with Larry Talbot, and we see him as that person before he ever becomes the monster. Also, I will say, in fairness, it's based on the H.G. Wells novel, and that novel does open up with him like going into the hotel already invisible. But
Yep.
yeah, but either way, if the story did give us more development like that, we could have had it could have rivaled it. But I just think everything we get with Larry Talbot really, even in that first movie, just makes him such a compelling character. And again, love the idea of the hero and the monster being one.
Hmm.
So
Nope, Wolfman wins. Sorry, Invisible Man. Maybe someday somebody will remake the movie like we just said. But
yeah,
until then, we still had an incredible actor play an incredible role. It didn't top another incredible character, an incredible role.
absolutely. By the way, real quick, we can talk about this in the terms of remakes. Yeah, Lee Whannell's Wolfman was hot garbage, but I actually kind of like the 2010 one with Benicio del Toro.
Yeah, it was good. I think it was a little long. There was a
Yeah.
few things about it, I guess, there were some scenes where I did get a little bored, but I mean, it was still a quality film. It was still
Hmm.
quality at the end of the day. I mean, all-star cast, great storytelling. I thought the effects were really good.
I like the twist with Sir John Talbot also being a wolf man.
I
Was good.
really like that.
Yeah,
Yep, where
that was
he just blasts it out, and I'm like, okay, Anthony Hopkins.
yeah. Anthony Hopkins, yeah. Also, I love that his Wolfman is very gray. Just because, yeah, he's an old man.
Hmm.
So
Maybe someday that level of storytelling will come back and things will improve. But until then, I don't look at recent releases as fondly as we used to.
absolutely. And on that topic, it brings us finally to, they're back at it again. They're fighting yet again, these two.
Did
Frankenstein
we
meets the Wolfman all over again.
did we plan this? Don't think so. But
I
it is hilarious that we have wound up with Frankenstein versus the Wolfman in
Yeah.
the final.
Yeah, and I think it's fitting that these two tragic characters I really think there's something poetic about like the just how tragic these two are and how is what makes them so compelling. So Chad, do you have any way you're leaning?
Oh,
It's hard.
it's
This one's hard.
it is because especially since these were the ones who had more than one movie,
Hmm.
like with actual continuity. They had actual character development behind them. They're both tragic. Neither of them, while the Frankenstein monster never asked to be created, Larry never asked to have that curse of the Wolfman put on him
That's such a
because,
good way to put it.
yeah, he was doing a good deed. He was being a
He was
good
a
human
hero.
being. Yeah, he was being a hero and he lost,
Yep.
unfortunately, in the end. So it's just, I guess, wow. Gun to my head, I'm going to go Wolfman because they stayed consistent with Larry Talbot through every iteration of what happened to him.
You know what? I honestly think I'm gonna go with you on that. I was going to make a case for the monster, but I think a lot of what I'm going with for the monster, I'm also leaning on the original Mary Shelley novel, which is not really what these movies are like. Um,
Hmm.
there's something really to these are characters that, I didn't ask to be created or I didn't ask to be a monster. And you know what? I think I do got to go Wolfman with you. Congratulations to the Wolfman, but yeah, there's just because we get those compelling character moments with Larry Talbot. We haven't really talked much about Larry Talbot having those moments where he's like,
I killed Baylor. I killed Richardson. If I stay around here much longer, you can't tell who's gonna be next.
so we get those character moments of him, being the hero and like wanting to solve the problem, but then we get those really cool, spooky moments of him being the Wolfman chasing people down in the foggy woods. So
Hmm.
with
Or
one
even
character, we get both of those things.
absolutely, and even jumping. I mean, obviously, Wolfman, um, Frankenstein versus the Wolfman, and then even up to House of Frankenstein, where it's like he's so just defeated at that point
Yeah.
that even when I forget her name, that gypsy girl falls in love with him, he's like, "No, you don't want anything to do with me."
Yeah.
And she's still insanely in love with him, and he's doing it out of pure selflessness
Yep.
to help her just stay away from him. And and then she winds up getting killed anyways by him.
Yeah.
But it was like his being tortured of being the character was a focal point of every sequel going forward, which I really liked because it, in a way, almost reminded me of like he had a goal every time he was revived. Like
Yep.
I was taken out of my hibernation of being a wolf, of whatever did this to me. I'm back, but either cure me or kill me. One of the two. I do not want to be here because I do
Hmm.
not want to hurt or harm or kill anyone else going forward.
And there's
It was a
something,
very selfless character all the way through.
and yeah, and I'll say this also what sort of puts him ahead of the monster for me. Like we said, first movie, the monster is like a tragic child. Second movie, he's getting that development, and from there he peters off. He doesn't reach that same peak like we were saying.
Hmm.
Whereas the Wolfman, it's consistent. I wouldn't say he has a peak. Well, I think the first movie is the peak of his performance at least, but it's consistently that same dread that this character feels. So it's more consistent, I would say.
Yup, he even by the final movie, he knows what he is.
Yep,
He knows that he's a monster. He knows what he's capable of. And he's like, you have to get rid of me. You have to. It doesn't matter what you say, what you think. It's either cure me or kill me, one of the two, because I can't exist with this curse any longer.
absolutely. So, congratulations, Larry Talbot, the Wolfman. You are, according to us, the greatest of all Universal monsters. Well deserved, I would say.
I agree, 100%. I mean, but just look at like the development we went through with all the other monsters that
Hmm.
Universal was able to put out. I mean, aside from the Bride, we pointed out so many positives of so many of these, and
Yeah.
it's just incredible to look back and be like, over the span of just decades, what these characters still mean and the influence that they still have on the world.
Yeah. Every October you'll see these monsters somewhere, whether it's on cereal or you'll see them in commercials. You can't escape them, and they are for me like this is what Halloween is all about.
Agreed. Halloween is it's just it's enjoying these either old movies or I mean for me it's almost all old movies that I watch every
Right,
Halloween. I mean I never really sit down on like around the Halloween time and I'm like looking forward to watching like Insidious 4.
right, exactly,
But I will throw on Ghost of Frankenstein, which is the fourth in that franchise.
exactly. I don't think to put on the latest Conjuring movie, but I will throw on at least one Universal monster movie has to get thrown on every October for me.
Agreed. Now I just
Yeah,
got to decide how many I want to make it through in these last few days of the spooky season.
absolutely.
I
Well,
think I can, you know what? I think I can make my way through all three all the Wolfman movies.
yeah,
That'll only take me what, a couple hours?
yeah, exactly. And yeah, that's another thing. For anyone who may not have watched these movies, they're very digestible. I think the longest one is Son of Frankenstein. I think that's like a full like hour 40, but these are mostly like an hour 15 minutes at tops.
You blast through them all in one day and not feel like completely worn out.
Yeah, exactly. So, hey, you know what, Chad, I really appreciate you jumping on with me. You know what? Never say never. We might come back to it. We might get back to that franchise, to running through this franchise over on Eternal Midnight. But if y'all want to check out our back catalog there, that was a lot of fun. Aside from that, Chad, is there really anything you want to pitch?
Not really. I'm not really working on anything currently. Being on here has kind of inspired me to maybe get back into it. And if I do,
Awesome.
obviously I'll let you know. But as of this moment, there is some of the back catalog on Eternal Midnight. I was glad whenever you were able to jump on with us. But yeah, I'm even looking at it right now. I mean wow, it's sat dormant for 3 years now.
Do you remember one thing we were planning, or one thing I at least suggested, and this would be a huge undertaking, is not only finishing that, but by the end, ranking all 30 plus movies in that box set.
Oh, yes. I would probably have to sit down and just start like watching them all again to do that. But ooh, I think we need to do it.
Yeah, let's keep that as a possibility.
Perfect.
Alrighty. Well, hey, this is the last video of spooky season, so happy spooky season, happy Halloween, everyone. And what else is there to say but I've been Kenny Steps.
And I'm Chad.
Take it easy and keep stepping into the movies.